Phil Egan, welcome back.
Hey lads, how you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. Right, a fairly manic weekend of football ahead. Your must-watch, might-watch and won't-watch list. I don't have in front of me, but tell me where you're heading on the must-watch.
Well, obviously, Premier League returns tomorrow, 12:30, Newcastle, Chelsea. So I think that is a must-watch because obviously Chelsea are finding their form. Hakim Ziyech has been key to that, but at the 12:30 kickoff, I know it's something Frank Lampard has complained about, that they've been put on that slot. Who wants to be on the 12:30 slot after the international break? Just think back to last month, and the Merseyside derby was the first game back, and that was action-packed. So if we get that much drama in tomorrow's game between Newcastle and Chelsea, then we're in for a treat. Now, it's been strange watching the international games because there's been no VAR, so all that drama comes back into it, and ridiculous offside decisions, handball decisions, everything disputed. And Newcastle are quite a tough team for Chelsea to play against when it comes to St James's Park. Now, that was more an issue for Jose Mourinho when he was the Chelsea manager, but yeah, they make things quite difficult for you. So it could be a tricky enough one for Chelsea. We don't know if Thiago Silva will start for Chelsea. He's obviously 36, played a couple of games for Brazil, so will Frank Lampard throw him in there? The problem is, I think you're going to see some crazy results this weekend. Obviously, we know the nature of the season so far. No fans. We've had some bizarre results. But throw in an action-packed international break where some players are playing 3 games. What kind of conditioning are they coming back in? Obviously, some players are not available because of COVID. So it's going to be very hard to predict games until maybe you see those team sheets before kickoff.
Yeah, Phil, I won't lie to you. If that Newcastle-Chelsea game had slipped into might watch, or even maybe a little further down the list, you wouldn't have got too much argument here. But, I mean, I don't know if there's a category that we could have higher than must-watch. But Spurs versus Manchester City, for all the reasons on the touchline, is very much in that category. What's going to happen?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the Mourinho-Guardiola factor, it was something that came into the Premier League in 2016 when Guardiola took over City and Mourinho was in charge of Manchester United, and that rivalry, it didn't really amount to anything because City were just so far ahead of United. But Jose Mourinho obviously got a win over City last season at White Hart Lane, and today actually marks 1 year since Jose Mourinho took over as Tottenham manager. It was a big surprise at the time, given how popular Pochettino was and Jose Mourinho's links to Chelsea. And I think a year in, there's a lot of love for Jose Mourinho. He's managed to get Spurs fans on his side. Now, we know it's not going to end well, but at the moment, things are going quite well for him. He's got a very good squad. Some people think that they could challenge for a Premier League title this season because the likes of City and Liverpool are not going to run away with it like they have in previous seasons. So this is going to be an interesting one where we've seen the best of Spurs basically play on the counter-attack. Harry Kane finds space and finds Son, and that's where their goals come from. Højbjerg, a player that Guardiola knows from his time at Bayern Munich, has been a great addition to the Spurs squad. Give them a bit of metal in midfield, and it also has a bit of creativity as well. So this is going to be definitely the must-watch game tomorrow. Obviously then you're looking at the Liverpool-Leicester game on Sunday. But yeah, it's interesting watching City so far. They've drawn a lot of games. They're definitely not scoring as many goals. We know that they're not creating as many chances, but they do look a lot more solid at the back. Now, obviously Laporte is back in there. Ruben Diaz has been signed as well. But in terms of, they're not being left as exposed as they have been. Now, is that going back to what happened the day against Leicester where they conceded 5? So it mightn't be as previous games have gone between Spurs and City, or Mourinho and Guardiola, where Mourinho's quite happy to sit in and Guardiola's teams will have a lot of possession. Guardiola will be very conscious of what can happen on the break given how good Spurs are.
Liverpool-Leicester has got in there. Liverpool in crisis really is how we should start to describe them. That should just be their moniker from here on. Phil, they've got COVID crisis going on. They've obviously such massive issues defensively. That's all the negative stuff aside. You think if they actually managed to pull through this period that they'd be with their title ambitions still very much in track, and there's no reason to suggest they can't. But to get some of those players back, and suddenly the opportunity presents itself to put some daylight, when they get all those stars back, to put some daylight between them and the rest.
Yeah, again, I suppose Liverpool fans will probably be tuning in for Jurgen Klopp's pre-match press conference this afternoon, where he'll reveal who's in and who's out. We obviously know who's out. We know Van Dijk is out. We know Joe Gomez is out. But obviously Mo Salah is out as well. But is Thiago back? Is Fabinho back? Because if they start with Fabinho and Matip as a central defensive pairing against Leicester, they'll fancy their chances. Then what does he do at right back? Obviously Trent Alexander-Arnold's another player that picked up a calf injury in that game against Manchester City. He'd be close to a return, but it looks like Sunday will come too soon. So does he go with Milner as a right back? And that's obviously the player that came on in that game against City. Does he go with Nico Williams, who, you know, he's still very young, and maybe Klopp might feel this isn't the game for him. But Klopp has shown before. I mean, he's thrown Trent Alexander-Arnold in to play a game at Old Trafford before. Wasn't the easiest afternoon for him. I seem to remember going up against Anthony Martial, but this is what makes you as a player. Obviously, Reece Williams has come into the team, Nat Phillips as well. So Klopp will definitely feel like, you know, he's not going to moan about all the players he's missing. Now, he's obviously been quite vocal in how the international games have gone, the fact that they're trying to play 3 games, and you know, we know how busy the schedule is. We know what it's like coming into December. So the players are being absolutely flogged at the moment, but Liverpool will still have a very strong starting 11. We should find out later on today exactly what they can do in terms of, if Thiago can play, that's a massive boost. But I suppose people will think this is Leicester's chance, and Leicester, if they're going to beat Liverpool at Anfield, this is as good a chance as they get, given that Jamie Vardy's had his feet up on the international break. Well, I say he's obviously been training, but he hasn't been playing any high-intensity matches for England. And obviously Harvey Barnes is another player that hasn't been away on international duty. So they'll definitely fancy their chances. It was a very tight game at Anfield last season. If you think back to when they played on the 26th of December last season, Liverpool went to Leicester, hammered them, and the wheels kind of came off for Leicester. It's still very early days, but Leicester have been very impressive, especially at the back, and Fofana.
Yeah, a couple of title contenders there, so we're keeping a keen eye on that. You've stuck Leeds Arsenal in there as well, Phil, in that must-watch. But somehow, from what I understand, you've relegated Manchester United and West Brom out of that and into the might-watch. Justify yourself?
Yeah, I think what happens with a might-watch is sometimes you can start watching it and, you know, you can
give it a chance.
You can give it a chance, or you can go the other way where you don't start watching it, but you keep an eye on it. You might check the score and you think, oh, West Brom have scored an early goal at Old Trafford. Maybe that's going to turn into a must-watch. Or, you know, as I said, if you start watching it and there's a couple of early goals, you think this is a game I could come back to later on. When I have a must-watch, this is, as I said, this is me sitting down uninterrupted for the whole game. We don't know what to expect from Manchester United. We know they have a wretched record at Old Trafford this season, but West Brom haven't won a Premier League game this season. However, they do have a decent enough record at Old Trafford in recent seasons. Seem to remember them going there as a relegated team and getting a result that actually handed Manchester City the Premier League title a few years back when Mourinho was in charge. But it's a game that United should be winning, and you know, they'd like to build a bit of momentum given what happened before the international break. They got that really important win against Everton, and then you're into the Champions League as well, and they can recover what happened against Istanbul and get themselves back into contention for qualifying, because they're still in good shape in that Champions League group when you consider how tough it was in terms of the draw. So this is one of those games where United could score early and it could be a very comfortable evening for them, but they haven't shown that so far at Old Trafford. But you kind of look at West Brom and you wonder where the goal is going to come from.
Yeah, you have Villa, Brighton and Fulham, Everton and Wolves, Southampton on the might watch, and then nobody's going to argue too much about your won't watch. Sheffield United against West Ham and Burnley up against Crystal Palace. So that's the lineup for the weekend. Phil, good man. Thanks a million.
Thanks, lads. Enjoy.